This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome on into the Yanks Go Yard podcast, live again on a Monday, 2 o'clock Eastern, coming at you to talk about, I don't know what we're going to talk about. I don't want to talk about anything. Nobody wants to talk about anything. Why are you here? Judging by the viewer count, you're not here. Yeah, but you're listening. I know you are on podcast apps. Thanks for joining us live on YouTube. We're on all your favorite podcast platforms as well. The New York Yankees, who basically didn't lose series in May and the early half of June. We warned you about the June schedule. We did. We said it's tough. 3 series in a row at Fenway with the Red Sox at 500 at the time. They're better now. But still, if you thought 500 Red Sox at Fenway wasn't a tough series, I don't know what to tell you. They've shown up against the Yankees for 20 consecutive years, and they're going to again this year. Tough series. Baltimore at home, tough series. Atlanta Braves at home, tough series. They didn't get swept in any of them. All right. Gold star, blue star. Is there a level of star below a gold star that kind of represents like solid job, but not great? Look, if we're trying to pass an exceedingly low bar, then the New York Yankees did it, going 3-6 in those series, avoiding a sweep in any of them, and technically maintaining ground in the AL East because the Baltimore Orioles got swept in Houston. But more importantly, they didn't look good in a single one of these sets. The losses were as lopsided as it gets. Even yesterday in a 3-1 game, overmatched by Max Fried. Never this game. They were never in it. Look, was I on a plane for the entire game, only parsing the box score? Of course. Happy to be back from Italy, where the Yankees did nothing but lose during my time there. But it really felt like they either saved themselves by winning a game in both the Braves and O's series. Sure, you can say, definitely a couple exhales in both of those series. But the real defining trait of the Yankees' last 3 series was getting overwhelmed in the losses, leading to questions about their ability as currently constructed to face top quality opponents, and leading to several different angles of trade deadline needs. There are holes all over the roster that both persisted all year and showed themselves over the past 10 days or so when players went down, some predictable, some not, and other players have yet to step up to fill those gaps. So now we got to talk about filling them. Thanks for joining me to do all that, Thomas Carinante. Welcome on into the room. Before we get going, I believe you have an offer from Caesars for the folks.
Sure do. Welcome back, buddy. Man, that was a slog doing those by myself. I don't know how anybody does that.
Sometimes it's easier when the Yankees give you some fun fuel. You're like, oh, cool. Now I get to talk about the New York Yankees online today instead of what you had to do, which I have a lot of sympathy for.
Opposite of energized, tired throughout, yawning midway through sentences. The duo dynamic is back, folks. We couldn't be more happy. Caesars is here, though, and they want you to be happy because they are looking to cover your first bet up to $1,000. Holy crap. New York, new customers, not New York. We're done with the state nonsense. We're getting close to the federal level, folks. New customers will get a second chance bet up to $1,000 when you sign up with our promo code YGY1000. That means if your first bet loses, you will get your full wager returned as a bonus bet. Once again, up to $1,000. Caesars offers daily profit boost as well as Caesars rewards credits on every wager, which can be redeemed for bonuses, sports tickets, and other VIP experiences. Signing up with our code YGY1000 not only covers your first bet, but it gets you access to these fantastic rewards. So if you're looking to join Caesars, go download the app and register with our promo code YGY1000 and make sure that first bet is covered. This offer is only available to new customers, so yourself, friends, family, whoever. You got to be 21 years and older. You got to be physically present in legal gambling states. The standard stuff. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. What can we recap from these last 2 series a little bit more coherently? Yankees hitting a rough patch in the season. I think we have the classic overreactions that are unwarranted, but you have the worries, again, that are warranted. Roster construction beyond the top-heavy lineup. The concerns beyond the usual suspects on the pitching staff dominating every night. There's been a lot of holes in the pitching staff for the whole year, been a little bit rickety. Admirable performance, but you couldn't sit here and believe that it wasn't all going to come crashing down at a moment's notice. Yankees completely revamped their bullpen. I think we could expect to see that maybe twice before the trade deadline, depending on who works out over these last few weeks. But, you have Judge out of the lineup for that day and a half. You got some wacky things happening. The rest of the lineup is completely cold. You're just not getting what you need out of. People keep telling me Gleyber Torres is performing well, but I have seen none of his hits or contributions help in winning efforts over the last few weeks. DJ LeMahieu was as cold as it can possibly be. The catching situation has been largely the catching situation for the season. I know Jose Trevino has gotten hot here and there, but Anthony Rizzo goes down. I think Ben Rice has been solid. But again, not much to contribute outside of just like logging singles here and there. He still needs time, not criticizing him at all, but Alex Verdugo has gone cold. Juan Soto's not really playing defense. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. Jahmai Jones was batting 5th on Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know. So look, this was bound to happen, and it was bound to happen against the best opponents. So again, I will agree with the bar being set low. 3-6 in those 9 games is fine with me. We saw a lot worse the last 2 seasons when the Yankees collapsed post All-Star break in 2022, and then were just bad throughout all of 2023. So I think getting out of all those series without a sweep and by having one emphatic victory in all of them is at least good for like. The Yankees this season have done one thing fairly well, and it's kind of ignore getting their teeth kicked in.
Yeah, they really have.
Their second game of a season, of a series, which is fine. Like they start off the Orioles series really hot with a lineup that probably shouldn't have won the game, and Aaron Judge leaving that game early. So to me, getting the job done in that first one of the series was good enough. I know they didn't come back after getting stomped out in the third game of the series because the Braves took it to them, but that win on Saturday is huge to me against the Braves. Largely uninspiring baseball, but again, 162 game season. This shit's going to happen. All that matters is that the Yankees are addressing these problems or attempting to, which I think they started to with acquiring JD Davis.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more to go. JD Davis is not the answer, but guess what? They're moving a little bit more with urgency compared to the last 2 seasons. Again, in my opinion, don't know what you guys think. They're moving a little bit more meaningfully, and they're setting themselves up to see what they have and see what's acceptable before this trade deadline. That's my recap.
I agree. And I think, look, Yankee fans have been maybe uniquely perturbed this year since I don't know if it's the hot start, the 10-2 start, or I don't know if it's Juan Soto only being around for 1 year, but it feels like they feel more pressure. The team is not playing like they feel more pressure. They have actually, like you said, responded to getting their teeth kicked in more often than not. They have also played with urgency, both in terms of the front office going to get replacement pieces or calling up replacement pieces or taking bold chances like bringing Ben Rice up, not on the 40-man roster, or, the lineup construction, whoever's responsible for that. More often than not, they run the same guys out there day after day as often as they can. Obviously, injuries will interrupt that. So they're going to get less of that moving forward. But when they had their full complement of stars, they typically stuck with the lineup. That is a common fan criticism from the past couple of years that they've done a good job addressing. So maybe fans are feeling more pressure this year because the team is doing everything the way they perceive it to be right. Like they're doing all the things that they have begged to see in recent years, and it was working. And so now when it starts to not work a little bit, they can't even handle losing 2 out of 3 against very good opponents, or like getting blown out on 2 blowouts in a row, like unacceptable. I think fans are responding. Yankee fans are behaving like trolls recently, where the Yankees lose 2 games in June and all the other Jonathan Papelbons of the world are like, here we go, collapse time. And it's like, well, that's ridiculous. But now when fans start believing it sounds less ridiculous because you're hearing it from both sides. And it's like, is this a collapse? Is 3 kind of tough series in June a collapse? Are we fully collapsed now? That said, they've got holes to address that were obvious before this recent stretch and are obvious now. The reason I think we're so aggressive in demanding upgrades at this deadline is because this is a World Series caliber team.
Yeah.
With upgrades. Like the roster, if the roster in September and October is the roster now, no. Not making it through the playoffs. and an ignominious stretch for Aaron Judge's Yankees will continue. I'm going to keep screaming about this all stretch run, all playoffs, hopefully long. They, under Aaron Judge, have won one playoff series against a non-AL Central opponent. The Oakland A's in the one-game wild card in 2018. That's it. That's the Astros, the Red Sox, and the Rays. They have not faced that many non-AL Central opponents in the playoffs, but whenever they have, come up woefully short. This is a year where they need to make a statement at both the deadline and in October. We all know that. They did a great job of making that statement in May. They have done, outside of the past 10 days, a really good job of making that statement in June as well. With a really tough schedule, they need to finish this month over 500 and then get back to doing work in July, and especially August and September when the schedule eases up, and hopefully they have reinforcements on the way. July going to be a tough month to slog through too as well, without Giancarlo Stanton and without the backup plans. We'll talk about all this piece by piece. We'll talk about J.D. Davis a little bit. But let's go spot by spot first, because I think the bullpen is the most interesting solution spot with the most up for grabs right now. Bullpen ERA is a tough thing to judge by, but the Yankees did put up a 5.48 bullpen ERA in a recent stretch. It was the fourth worst in baseball, behind only the absolute dregs of the league, like the Angels and Rockies. They know it. No secret. We knew it too. Ian Hamilton was clearly injured and compromised before landing on the IL. A necessary maneuver. I don't know how long it's going to be until he gets back, but I don't want that version of Ian Hamilton back. So however long it takes, let's let him work through that. Let's not demand he come back ahead of schedule. They got some bullpen stuff to sort out. Clay Holmes, another fun one of like fans prophesying a problem. Clay Holmes blows like one save, and every fan is like, he's a problem. He's an issue. Yankees don't have a closer. It's their most glaring problem. It's like he's going to blow saves every once in a while. And you try to talk him down off the ledge, and then he's bad like 4 games in a row. And then you're like, all right, well then what was I even supposed to be doing? Like I was logical. They were not, but they were right. This sucks. That's why following this team just kind of sucks year to year. Because you want to talk the fans down. You want to be like, he's the best closer in baseball in the first half of the season. They're like, don't care. And you're like, all right, I guess you don't have to care, but he is. And then he has 4 awful outings in a row. And then they're like, well, how's Clay Holmes now? And you're like, really bad. Like I was using logic and reason. I was using logic and reason. You weren't, and you were right. So sorry, really bad. But yeah, Holmes going through a rough stretch. Plenty of the guys who were supposed to be sort of 6th, 7th inning stalwarts were looking more like unusable pieces. Caleb Ferguson has the strikeout rate going for him, but his lines have been recently muddied by some bad appearances. Victor Gonzalez had almost nothing going for him. His recent appearances were all uniformly bad, giving up runs in each of the last 3 at the very least. That's what I saw while abroad. I was like, how many runs has he given up lately? Oh, that game and that one as well. And his predictive metrics are dreadful. So
the worst in the league, literally.
Yeah, he was the one who went first, and it might have shocked some people, but made sense. Dennis Santana DFA'd right before I left, had to go. Ron Marinaccio, sent down at the peak of his powers earlier in the season, comes back up. Looks like 2023 Ron Marinaccio, he had to go as well. Yoendris Gomez already paid dividends in a blowout, yes, but soaked up a lot of innings and looked good. Phil Bickford getting some real run early on. Tim Hill, former standout Padres lefty, but never really had the strikeout numbers, so I'm not really optimistic about Matt Blake finding anything there, but he's here for a couple weeks. The Yankees are 52-28. With as many bullpen question marks as they got, they can afford to mess around with Tim Hill for a little bit instead of Anthony Misavich. JT Brubaker, wild card on the rehab trail. Scott Efros also rehabbing. Where I see it as this stands, June and the first half of July going to be a really good audition month for some of these guys, but this can't be, like you said, the final total overhaul. They're going to need to bring in a swing and miss arm or 2 at the deadline, in addition to all these lottery tickets. Maybe they find something in Gomez. Maybe Efros comes back as peak of his powers Efros. Maybe Brubaker is another Luke Weaver. And people seem to be optimistic about that. And let's see it. I don't know. But the bullpen right now is semi in shambles. Good stuff from Canely and Holmes yesterday. Really needed that from both of them. But yeah, the stalwarts are tired, and the middle innings guys were dreadful, even when they were winning in April and May. And so much needed infusion of talent, but signaled that there's probably going to be another one on the horizon, even if they uncover some gems here.
Yeah, and look, potential other issues, right? Like Tommy Canely looked good yesterday, but he hasn't really been good this season. Again, regardless of what the stats tell you, he's again having problems with inherited runners. He's giving up hard contact. Michael Tonkin, I understand that his rise has been pretty significant, but I think that's again more so the last guy in the bullpen type vibes for a championship team. Luke Weaver is good, but he's been hittable. He's consistently giving up runs. I understand that they're not backbreaking runs, but it's something you have to keep an eye on. In terms of this iteration of the bullpen, Phil Bickford probably will not be here by the time.
No, don't trick yourself into thinking it. But
Trickford?
then again, Michael Tonkin, I was like, well, what the hell is this guy still doing here? And now he's like the third most trusted reliever in the Yankees bullpen. So I'm with you. I would say don't everybody get too excited about Phil Bickford mop-up work, but we could be wrong in a month and a half.
Certainly. Bickford with short hair, though, it's not him. We got to
he looks like shit. He looks like shit. So he definitely gets docked some looks like shit points.
It's like, dude, you couldn't have just held out for another job to keep your good looks going. Like the buzz cut's not for you, brother. No. Just kidding, man. I know the rules suck. The hair and facial hair rules suck here. But yeah, bullpen filler. He is at this point. I think Tim Hill was brought in as a change of pace option. He's a side armor. Obviously, they needed a lefty replacement for Victor Gonzalez. I think also he could be there to put pressure on Caleb Ferguson. If he is performing to Caleb Ferguson's abilities or better, they're both going to be gone at the deadline, before the deadline. That's going to give the Yankees clear notification that they need a much better lefty. So I think best case scenario, one of the two remain. Worst case scenario, we're looking at an overhaul. I think Yogo, our boy Yoendrys Gomez, is probably here to stay. Mm-hmm. He was good the last time he came up. Just effective innings. I understand not the highest of leverage, but you need somebody who's just going to delete innings and not give you an issue. That outing on Friday night, it was 4 2/3, I think, scoreless. Saved the bullpen for the rest of the weekend. Too bad the Yankees couldn't capitalize and win the next 2 games with that advantage at their side, but the bullpen was overworked the previous 6 games. It is what it is. So you're looking at a situation where I guess the hierarchy remains Clay Holmes and Luke Weaver at the top, and then it's a bunch of I don't knows, and then you get into the situation where it's like, okay, who gets demoted from the rotation into the bullpen when Clark Schmidt is back? He's eligible to return a month from now. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We're probably looking at post-trade deadline. But, I don't know what to make of Luis Gil's stinker against the Orioles in that finale. That was bound to happen.
That's another reason, though, why the discourse has been so aggressive this year, because it's not just losses. It's like, because if they were just losing like 5-2, you get some really muted discourse about like, oh, they don't hit with wrist, but then you just have to be like, shut up. It's baseball. They will again. They might not now, but whatever. But Luis Gil getting just wrecked to the point where you're like, that's physically not possible. And then Carlos Rodon 2 in a row and crying in the dugout. And you're like, okay, that's like, we'll talk about the pitching in a little bit. And Jose Trevino just getting run on like a madman. It's like the optics of the losses have been like, game over by the end of the first inning in such a way that the haters are dancing.
Yeah.
So like if they didn't look like that in the losses, we wouldn't really be having this conversation. It's not the worst thing in the world to get exposed now, but it would be pretty bad if they didn't have solutions at the deadline.
Agreed. So yeah, I mean, I think the bullpen is we're gonna see maybe another shuffling out. I mean, I guess this is my job, but I haven't been paying attention. What's Clayton Beater's status? I guess I could check that right now.
I mean, not your fault. They don't tell us. So like Clayton Beater's hurt, shoulder stuff, I believe, and that's probably really bad because we have
last news was shoulder injury, placed on the IL May 21st. Nothing.
Chase Hampton, no news. Caleb Durbin, no news on the 7-day secret IL. He has a wrist fracture.
Let me do my fucking job.
Definitely. If Jason Dominguez wasn't Jason Dominguez, they wouldn't have told us shit about that injury.
Exactly.
Everson Pereira got Tommy John surgery.
Yep.
After being on the secret IL for like 3 weeks. I mean, he wasn't going to play this year, but that's a deadline piece you lose. And
Yep.
I would have loved to know about that. If he hadn't had surgery, we would never have known about that. If Jason Dominguez wasn't named Jason Dominguez, we would have gotten an update on his oblique on July 18th.
It's true. It's totally true. In regards to the bullpen, however, I think you still have to operate with Michael Tonkin being your last man and then beefing up the middle. So I think like the order right now is probably Tonkin. In terms of guys we're going to keep, right, that we know we're going to keep, it's probably Tonkin, Caleb Ferguson on the fence, but we need a lefty, so I think he has to kind of be in those rankings. Canely, Luke Weaver, Clay Holmes, and then everything else in between is up in the air. You're not going to be able to cut Canely because he's under contract. Yeah. It is what it is. If he's one of your, if he's one of your lower leverage guys, then great. But they have to figure out these, I guess, how many spots is it? It's 1 in Bickford, 2 in Gomez, 3 in Hill. Yeah, so you're going to need 3 more capable relievers in here. It's going to be a lot of work, but hey, at least they know where they stand.
And I appreciated the Victor Gonzalez DFA. He didn't. But
yeah, goodbye. I mean, yeah, make the moves when you have to. They held on to Dennis Santana too long. They, in my opinion, fucked up Ron Marinaccio again. He was pitching fine. He was doing good. I understand the advanced metrics weren't fully on his side, but guess what? When you overcome those and pitch with perseverance and in high pressure situations like he managed to, sometimes you can overlook that. They demote him to the minors. They keep him there for a month. They expect him to come back up and start pitching like nothing ever changed. He gets wrecked again. And then you DFA Santana anyway. So if you just DFA'd Santana a fucking month ago without having to use him in all these excruciating outings, Ron Marinaccio's still here. Maybe he's working through that advanced metric nonsense instead of playing against inferior competition and then coming up and having to level up. So yeah, they fucked up an asset there. I think everybody could admit that. Although people are like, I'm sick of Ron Marinaccio. I'm like, what are you sick of? What are you saying? He was injured all of last year with a shin issue, right? They demoted him twice in 2022 when he was pitching well, completely screwed up his development. Then he came back and pitched well during, the final 3 weeks of the season. They leave him off the postseason roster.
Well, that's when he got the shin.
Yeah, and he has the shin injury. No, I thought in the beginning, that was the shin injury where he was left off the postseason roster.
We lost him. He hurt himself in like one of the final regular season series against the Orioles when they were doing the Aaron Judge cut-ins to the college football games and everybody was pissed.
Oh, yeah.
We were so distracted by that bullshit that maybe we didn't notice that Ron Marinaccio just had a shin issue. And then it was like, well, maybe he'll be back for the playoffs. I actually know he won't be at all. And actually he's going to be messed up for next year too. So sorry.
You know what I think I was confused about? I think they downplayed the shin injury and then he was left off the postseason roster and we're like, what the hell is going on? And then
Efros. It was like, wait, where's Scott Efros? Oh, he needs Tommy John surgery. Okay, great. Knife me in the eyes.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Efros and Brubaker, I know those could be the middle guys, but I'm not relying on it.
Ron Marinaccio was a huge loss in 2022. Night games that year. 31 innings, 9 hits allowed, 3 earned runs, 39 Ks.
Crazy.
0.87 ERA. It was terrible in day games, incredible in night games. And they went into that Astros series with the thinnest of margins and then lost key pieces along the way. So that's the way it is every year. You end up with Clark Schmidt and Frankie Montas throwing meaningful innings.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it. Look, that's why a lot of us are on edge too, because there's benefit. Obviously, there's obvious benefit. You want to win the AL East. You don't want to lose the AL East. But the teams that have gone in as the 1 seed, specifically the Braves, the last couple of years have shown up and gotten shell-shocked in your first playoff series.
Yep.
So then you're like, all right, they're going to be neck and neck with the Orioles all year, but if the Orioles beat them out and they end up as the first wild card, it's not the worst thing in the world. No, it's not. It really isn't. If they're the 4, they'd be going in the momentum. They'd be hosting the little short series. It's not the worst thing in the world. Unless the fucking Red Sox or Astros show up in that short series, which is definitively possible because the Red Sox right now are in a playoff spot. And the team that's most likely to take it from them looks like the Astros, who just swept the Orioles and they're 38-40. The Rays stink. The Blue Jays stink harder than any team has ever stunk. They are so stinky. They're going to get buzzsawed by Tanner Houck today. It's going to be equal parts frustrating and kind of impressive.
No, this is where we root for the Jays, remember?
I would love to. I can't wait to root for the Jays tonight. They're not going to win. They're going to lose 7-1. The Rangers are lurking, and they literally did win the World Series last year.
Rangers I'm scared of.
Got to be careful of them. But, I mean, when it was Twins and Royals in the 5-6, every Yankee fan on earth should have wanted to finish fourth. But now that you've got, let's face it, better teams in the Astros and Red Sox threatening the Royals and chipping them out of the playoff standings, like, I don't know. I don't think there's a soul here. Even if you think the Red Sox are a little bit of a fluke, I don't think there's a soul here who's like, Royals got them. Royals got this. They'll hold off the Red Sox.
Nope.
No, the Red Sox are better than the Royals, and the Astros are better than the Royals, and probably better than both. So we'll see how it goes. But a couple weeks ago, I was like, yeah, fall down to 4, whatever. Then you enter with some momentum. You get your sea legs against maybe a Central team, and now it's like, it's our chief rivals were in that 4-5 series. Ooh, well, time to drink poison.
Ooh, well.
So yeah, I mean, look, the Yankees can beat anybody if they play like the May Yankees and if they get healthy. But if they continue to get exposed like this and don't make adjustments and don't find the right pieces, then they're going to look like they just did over the last 10 days. That's a fact of the matter. Red Sox think they can beat you right now. Orioles think they can beat you right now. And at least one of those two teams is, I mean, the Orioles are very, very good, and there's really no reason for them to ever be any worse this year. Red Sox could roller coaster. Red Sox could come into New York in 2 weeks, and you could take it to them. You could. Bayo struggled. Cutter Crawford struggled. They're using an opener. Like, you might get the right sequence, and you might just buzzsaw them, but I don't think you're ever going to do that to the Orioles. And I think right now a Fenway series is probably more likely to look a lot like the last one than some sort of future evolved Fenway series. And I would love to, I guess the deadline needs are so numerous, but now that I'm talking about that, might as well talk about the advanced scouting issue and the fact that forget about third base, forget about the whole infield, forget about JD Davis, forget about starting pitcher. We'll talk about it all, but there's an advanced scouting issue here for whatever reason. I don't know why the Red Sox were the first team to figure out that Jose Trevino's arm strength is diminished. Not every team can run like Jarren Duran and David Hamilton and the Red Sox, but a lot of them can. Now that we've changed the bases and we've encouraged the running game, the Red Sox are not the only team that can do this, but for whatever reason, they were the first team to figure it out. The Orioles obviously had good advanced scouting on the Yankees pitch sequences. They smelled out heel start to finish, and it wasn't long before the finish because that start lasted 6.5 seconds. It seemed like the O's had their pitch sequences after 2 series. The first one, Luis Heel dominated them and got the only Yankees win in that 4-game set. This one, they were just on him like white on rice. How do you even fix that? And how does a team go through May sort of cavalier and dominant and then become so unbelievably predictable in June? Rodon, it was mislocation.
Braves jumping on him too.
Yeah, it was mislocation at Fenway, but the Braves just absolutely punished the early count fastballs in the same way that basically every team did last year. And I'm sick of the argument that like Rodon was bound to regress because of his FIP. And yeah, he absolutely was. There were going to be some regression starts in here, but the FIP wasn't 6.84 with the ERA in the 2s. The FIP didn't indicate Rodon should be the worst starter in baseball.
Oh, was it a run higher maybe?
It was like low 4s. It was like 4, 1, and 5, and now it's like 4.3 or whatever. And like if that's true talent Rodon, if he's a 4.3 ERA guy for like a month, okay. He can't get ambushed for 12 hits and 11 runs. And what was it? 11 hits, 8 runs. I mean, I was again. I don't know if anybody. There's never been a better time for the Yankees to struggle than when I'm in Tuscany or whatever.
Hey,
because I go to bed, they haven't played. I wake up, they've either won and gotten their brains beat in, one of the two. A couple times they won, and I was like, yeah, nice. I can enjoy my day even more. But then a couple times I opened the phone and was just like, oh, they got slaughtered. All right, time to walk outside into Tuscany. It was very nice. If they continue to get slaughtered in a similar fashion while I'm home for the next month or so, attitude's going to be different. But waking up to that Rodon line, the Luis Heel start was not a surprise because that started while I was still awake. It was 7-0 with the bases loaded and Tonkin in, and I went, all right, see ya. I mean, 17-5, okay. I would have accepted any score at that point. I'm like, all right, yeah, I get it. But the Rodon start, I was genuinely like, wow, that is awful. He was awful today. And it felt like it was the Braves just knowing the game plan and the Orioles knowing Heel's game plan, and the Red Sox obviously setting the blueprint for teams to take advantage of Trevino's diminished throwing arm. He says the wrist issue is not affecting it. I mean, I don't know how that's possible because he used to be good at this and is now horrendous at this.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are I think the glaring issues that I don't know if you fix at the deadline, because you can mitigate the running game. Don't let people on base. Don't put base stealers on base. Trevino's not going to look as bad as he did in that Fenway game over and over again. But the advanced scouting, the Yankees now need to punch back. They need to double back and be smarter than their opponent. And we were on 3 series in a row of saying the other team probably has a jump on the game plan.
Yeah, I agree. They need to respond here. I think that this isn't a big deal. Like Rodon is Luis Heel was just not good against the Orioles, right? He was mislocating, and he was erratic at times. Rodon made good pitches, and the Braves just beat his ass. Like
Blue Jays did it once this year too, so it's not the first time.
Yeah. The home run Matt Olson hit, I don't know how the fuck he hit that home run. That was a slider executed perfectly on that outside corner, and he pulled that over the porch. I guess I'd call the Austin Riley pitch a bad one, even though it was an outside corner fastball that he was trying to sneak by on a 3-1 count. Like, I don't know what you want him to do. And then the other 2 were just fastballs against Kelenic and Albies that he was trying to get in the count, and they just, they pounced on them. So to me, that was more of a game plan thing where it was like the Braves knew what was coming and the Yankees were just like, all right, we'll go into this one. Rodon's largely been good. We're going to ignore the start at Fenway. But smarter teams adjust and they know what's going on. There's a lot of film on Luis Heel now. There's 2 years of, there's a full year of bad film on Carlos Rodon. So I'm sure that they went a little bit deeper there. But yeah, Yankees just, let's not let this happen. You can't have 14 home runs from 2 starters in back-to-back outings. It's just, you can't do that. Not acceptable.
No.
In terms of the rotation, I don't know who you trade for. I think you get enough guys, you get enough people back in the form of Poteet when I guess he's healthy. And
it's nice that doesn't seem to be a killer, that like he's just getting off his feet for a couple, 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks of no throw.
I think he was on the 15.
Yeah, it said 1 to 2 weeks of no throw. Last I checked, again, I'm checking these at 3:40 a.m. or whatever. But then, ramp him up in his progression. I mean, he should be back by mid-July. A tricep strain could be the worst, and it could just be a tricep strain, and it seems to be pretty garden variety. But for me, starting pitcher depth issue at the trade deadline, it's more a depth issue than a top-end issue. I don't want them. Jesus Luzardo, glad he's off the board. Would not want them overpaying for him. Most of the top names you see bandied about, like I'm not paying for Jack Flaherty. Clark Schmidt is still going to be a factor. Like I'm not paying for any of these.
I'll go hot take. If they just get back on track and injuries are fine, then there's no need to improve the rotation at all.
I just would rather see, because now we're scratching the bottom of the barrel with Poteet injured. It makes you realize Poteet was really the only guy they had left to call up. Just get me a reinforcement type. It could be a crafty veteran. It could be like a bounce back candidate. I don't need to see you paying for top end rotation help, especially with Clark Schmidt coming probably relatively equipped for the stretch run. I just, when you see Poteet go down with anything, you're like, oh, that was like our 6th guy and also our last guy. So if we could just get one more Poteet, maybe probably a veteran, probably someone who has experience. Could be Yogo, but if you told me, look, it's bullpen, infield. But for me, if you told me like a Jaime Garcia type or a Lance Lynn type from a couple years ago shows up on deadline day, I'd be like, oh, great. That's actually a nice fit. Let's keep that going.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just, like the Luzardo stuff, the Flaherty stuff, that's like Luzardo's obviously out now, so we don't have to talk about that anymore.
Those are the worst conversations when just the biggest, like Tyler Anderson is on the market and everyone's like, Yankees have to get Tyler Anderson. Yeah. No, they absolutely do not, because these are the big names these names are going to dominate trade deadline.
Very easy.
Week, month. The Yankees are embarrassing if they don't upgrade their starting rotation depth with these 6 guys who were signed on $8 million 1-year contracts.
They were bad last year too.
Last year. Like the Yankees are a joke if they don't trade for Jack Flaherty. No, they're not. What? No.
Yeah, we need like the low-hanging fruit from trade rumors is just such a death knell for average fans. They hear a name and it's like, oh yeah, no, absolutely need to go after. Did you see his ERA in the first half? It's like I don't give a fuck what his ERA in the first half is. Yeah. All his ERA in the first half does is drive up the price if it's good. Because guess what? Teams don't give a shit how he performed last year or what his peripheral metrics say or what he probably projects to do in the second half. They say, this is the asset we have. This is how his stats are performing on paper. Take it or leave it. You're in a worse position than we are. The Angels can keep Tyler Anderson. They can have him for another year, and they can have a decent outlook for 2025 if they really wanted to. He's on a cheaper deal. Same with the Tigers and Jack Flaherty. Like, it'd be better for them to capitalize on these assets, but they don't need to trade anybody if they're not getting the return that they want. And they know pitching's at a premium in terms of price at the trade deadline. So you have to be careful. The Yankees should be going after bullpen first and then starting rotation second. In terms of the infield, I think JD Davis is a good start. People might forget that he was good last year.
Good and aggressive move to get him in here in mid-June when you got a DH vacancy. Yeah. Giancarlo Stanton has been fantastic this year, and we'll give him his own segment next. But clogging up the DH spot with Giancarlo Stanton is the biggest bummer of Giancarlo Stanton. You can't give guys half days. You can't move pieces in and out. No flexibility. Bringing in JD Davis immediately after the Stanton injury with an infield need for almost nothing. Jordan Groshans, an impossible to hate move. And if it doesn't work, he's gone. But
yeah, no, I agree. I think it's the perfect level of aggression for right now. You get JD Davis in theory, see what he could do for the next month. If he's suitable, great. Look, I think this could be a positive thing. If he's not playing to his numbers right now because he's in Oakland, right? Of course the numbers suck. He's playing. There's nobody in the lineup. There's a couple of guys who are doing okay on the A's, and then the heavy lifting in theory would be up to JD Davis.
Well, Miguel Andujar is now a trade deadline candidate according to Mark Feinsand, so he's popping off.
Yeah, you have Langoliers and that. Who else is in that lineup?
JJ Bleday, Brent Rooker. You got a couple of potential all-stars.
You got a couple of guys. But I think JD Davis, surrounded by more talent. Look, we say this about everybody who comes in, and you're looking at the rest of this lineup right now, and you're like, well, DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, Anthony Rizzo, so on and so forth, were not, in fact, performing well despite being surrounded by all this talent. I understand that. It's not going to work for everybody. I think at the very least, you got to take your shot with somebody like Davis, who versatile defender, first and third base. So that gives the Yankees flexibility. He's logged a bunch of DH reps. Either way, he comes in the lineup. Somebody gets a day off their feet. I know there are some issues here with the lefty-righty situation, depending on who is pitching that day. But, you're not going to have the perfect lineup every single evening. It's just not going to happen. But nonetheless, Giancarlo Stanton going down sucks, but it allows them for a little bit more flexibility here. I think it gives DJ LeMahieu needs days off. I think that's like the moral of the story. I think, look, Oswaldo Cabrera is not playing great, but his 2-run single on Saturday, more impactful than anything Gleyber Torres has done in a month. So I don't think Oswaldo Cabrera should be playing consistently over Gleyber Torres, but I think Gleyber Torres does not need to be playing every single day. And I think we could do a situation with Oswaldo at second base, maybe JD at first, or Oswaldo at third, and then you get DJ out of the lineup. You get, Ben Rice is not going to be an everyday player, so there is flexibility here. And then I think also importantly, you get Judge off his feet on defense. Soto doesn't like the DH. They said that, but maybe Alex Verdugo needs a couple of those days. Just don't put Jahmai Jones in left field. Stop putting him in the outfield. I don't know. I like the flexibility. I like the attempt to see what we have. He's got a month to prove himself. I know it's not the longest time, but the ability is there. He's done this last year very well, dating back to 2022 when the Mets traded him to the Giants. He had 100 and I think 60 something games with the Giants, and it was a really good 162 game average if you looked at the whole sample size. And he was okay with the Mets, not a detrimental player. Again, we're just looking for give me a 102 OPS plus and we're fine. Just don't give me a 186 DJ LeMahieu batting average and a 186 DJ LeMahieu slugging percentage, and we'll be okay.
DJ LeMahieu has been like the most unwatchable player on a team kind of packed with unwatchable players.
Yeah, I mean, we said it. Anybody who's upset by this is just not paying attention. It's just, he's turning 36. He's been destroyed by injuries since 2021.
Yeah.
Career's probably over. Sorry.
It's sad, but true.
It sucks.
You can acknowledge that he was great when he was great.
Absolutely.
And
you couldn't not sign him. You could not sign him. We all knew that.
Yeah.
We advocated for it. Probably a mistake in hindsight, but where the Yankees were at that point and what he was doing for that lineup when it was obvious he was the driving force, you're like, okay, we can get 3 more years out of this.
Yeah.
And it's worth paying for 6. But guess what? We got fucking 0.
And at the worst, he'll be a bench bat. He'll be somebody you can go to in the later innings if you need a line drive single. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to be that. Injuries, what have you. The Yankees love to stretch contracts. They could have probably spent the same amount of money in 4 years and gotten it done, but they decided to do 6 to lower the AAV, and now they're stuck with him for more years. That's them. That's not us. I would have signed him when we needed to sign him. I would do it again.
Yep.
Didn't work. So I'm into JD Davis. I really am, and it's like the bullpen. It's not quite – he's probably got a little longer rope than Phil Bickford and more of a chance of sticking around, but it's the same thing. It's like it's June. This is a 52-28 team. Just had a really bad stretch. Still a really good record. Still got more to prove.
Still in first place.
Still in first place. June and July, show us what you got. JD Davis is available. Show us what you got. 30-year-old, always an elite exit velocity guy. People have always talked about JD Davis as having untapped potential. He tapped a good deal of it for the Mets, not just in the juiced ball year. He was also very good in semi-part-time duty in 2021. Like you said, with the Giants last year, 105 OPS plus. 105 OPS plus looks like manna in the desert for the Yankees infield right now. Gleyber Torres, DJ LeMahieu, Oswaldo Cabrera, they ain't there. So it could be as simple as JD Davis and Ben Rice split first base.
Yep.
Lefty-righty, platoon. Boone called him a platoon player. But it's probably going to be a little bit more if Rice gets 7/10 of the starts at first and Davis goes from third to first and gives guys days off their feet and sends LeMahieu to the bench sometimes, and cool. And JD Davis DHs, and cool. I like it. I overall like it. Chase and Shreve, I fucking hate it. The worst ever. I don't want to see you anywhere. But in terms of recent pickups, JD Davis, again, not staking my season on him. It's not a hail. It's not like, oh, the Yankees aren't desperate. They're not like, save us. We're drowning. I mean, things aren't going fantastically well, but they set themselves up to have an audition month at the end of June and July before the deadline. So let's see what he's got. In terms of trade fits who've been mentioned, this will not be the final podcast where we bang the drum for Luis Rengifo, I don't think. Switch hitter, another versatile infield option, making relative pittance, $4.4 million on the year, still under control next year. For some reason, Mark Feinsand did not include him among the potential at the Yankees as a potential fit. So the Braves, Mariners, Twins, and his recent rundown of the top trade candidates. He's a 300 hitting, switch hitting middle infielder with power. He's 27 years old. Yankees, please. The Angels are going nowhere. And one that Feinsand did connect to the Yankees, it did make me just stop in my tracks and go, was Andrew Vaughn, who not going to be a free agent for a little bit. Top 5 pick, Chicago White Sox. The White Sox absolutely dead in the water. Since starting real slow, since the past 36 games between May 8th and yesterday, 289, 336, 528 with an 864 OPS, 9 homers, and 27 RBI. He's not a megastar, but he's a good, solid player. Maybe overrated a little bit because of the draft pedigree, but if you can get him for cheap for 2 of your pitchers, White Sox need all the help in the world prospect-wise. That would have been a fun way to use Everson Pereira if you didn't have season-long Tommy John, but I'm just if you can collect bats, you collect bats. I'm a believer in Ben Rice. I'm not putting him in the cold shower yet. I like what I see already, and I think he's a really good ball player, and I think they might have gotten a good one here and a really good opportunity to audition him. But, hey, if Andrew Vaughn pops up and you like the cost, then go for it. I personally would just prefer Rengifo.
Yeah, because, again, Gleyber Torres, 186 batting average, 625 OPS this month. Again, everyone's telling me he's turning it around. He indeed is not.
Doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, it just this can't be a player on this. If you can upgrade at any of these positions, first, second, or third. No knock on Ben Rice. Going to be hard to justify having Ben Rice as your starting first baseman after the trade deadline if he's not lighting the world on fire over the next month.
Gotta go crazy.
Yeah, you can't have platoons at first and third base and then have a black hole at second base. It's bad business. So I don't know what it's going to look like. Again, Gleyber Torres can change the conversation. He has a month as well. He's got a month change to do not this, but he keeps doing this.
Yeah.
So I don't know what anybody wants, but the reality of the discussion is that you cannot have 3 positions in the infield and 4 if you count catcher that are not giving you proper offensive production or consistent offensive production. And or the trade-off is not stellar, absolute platinum glove defense. There's a lot of holes in Gleyber's game. There's imperfect defense at the corners. Not saying everybody has to be absolute all-star level, but you have to bring something to the table. As a coach once told me, you cannot just show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like some of these guys are just showing up,
mm-hmm.
and that's it. And I understand it's a hard game, and I understand it's harder if you're not getting consistent playing time. But Ben Rice is the only one here without major, big league run. Gleyber Torres has been here for a long time. Oswaldo Cabrera, in my opinion, enough run to figure it out. DJ LeMahieu, same to you. Can't have that. Trent Grisham, I am fine with him being here. Defense is elite. Runs into one every once in a while. That's all you need. Who cares if he's batting fucking 180? He's one of the last guys on the bench, but he provides some sort of value. These other guys don't, and there needs to be an upgrade. I don't know what it's going to look like, but there you have it. That's
there
it.
You have it.
Not for the episode, but that's it for that.
Well, before we sign off for the episode, just a tribute to the nightmare sequence that was the last week of Yankees injuries. They've gotten off relatively light this year for a team that lost their ace and Cy Young winner for the whole year up until last week. But it's not that they haven't had injuries. They've just had the perfect solution to every single one of them, and they've had players step up when no one expected them to step up over and over again. So Cole's absence could have killed a team that didn't have Luis Gil pitching like someone who should be starting the All-Star game, but they got that performance, and they got an incredible version of Clark Schmidt. And Schmidt goes down, and they get some Cody Poteet starts that make you really not even notice that they lost Clark Schmidt. And they lose Anthony. You want to replace Anthony Rizzo anyway, because losing Rizzo probably makes the lineup better, and he gets hurt, and nobody wishes an injury on anyone, but it makes a tough decision easier. And they get to slide Ben Rice in there and experiment. Just over and over again, they have lost pieces and replaced them with either pieces who outperform them, or they've lost pieces who fans were already losing patience with and have not had difficult conversations about them. Like, I would have been really bothered by another month of fans being like, Anthony Rizzo is a loser. He's playing very poorly, but he's very much not a loser. But okay, great. Now he's injured. Now you can't say anything about him. So now we get to see if Ben Rice works. These have all lined up all year. Even when you didn't think they would, the Yankees were able to seamlessly replace the production from the players they lost. And they had Jason Dominguez waiting in the wings at AAA to do just that. Now, the more Dominguez mashed, the more uncomfortable that conversation would have been while they didn't call him up, because there was no justification for leaving him down there while he was hitting 340 with absurd freak of nature exit velocities every day. But they weren't going to call him up. And so I guess Dominguez getting hurt when he did, oblique strain, not going to miss the year, probably going to miss a little bit longer than you wanted him to, out through at least mid-August. But it's not structural. It's not a wrist, as it seemed like it might be when we first saw him leave. Whatever. He'll be here next year. We know he can hit big league pitching. We know he's ready. He's not losing crucial development time. That's not an excuse for you to freak out over this injury anymore, because he lost a half year with Tommy John, one of the most daunting, weird position player surgeries to recover from. And he came back and he looked better than he did before he left. So we know he's got it. Right? He's answered all the questions. He doesn't really have much more. Everybody has more developing to do until the day they retire. But he doesn't really have, doesn't have to prove anything. Doesn't have to laser, oh no, we're going to rue the 2 months he missed in 2024. He's never going to have plate discipline again. No, he's a great baseball player. And he's probably going to keep getting better and keep working on it. And the next adjustment will come when he comes to the bigs and has to adjust to big league pitchers exploiting his weaknesses. There's nothing more for him to get done at AAA. When he's healthy, he'll be back. And so it's a bummer to lose him because you lose an insurance option, but he's not out for the year. It's not structural. He'll be back. Don't worry. Unfortunately, the annual Giancarlo Stanton injury could not wait until he was ready. You knew Stanton was going to miss time at some point this year. Everybody crying about like, oh my God, he hurt his hamstring doing nothing. He wasn't even running. He probably hurt it on the double, not the jog home. And he always does that. His body isn't good anymore. So I understand being frustrated by that, but I would say Stanton, salute him, having a near all-star year in the first half, comeback player of the year type stuff, although you don't usually win that just for sucking and then being good again. You got to worry about when he comes back in 4 weeks. It always takes him a while to find his rhythm, so we might not see Stanton for quite a while. But hey, he's going to get hurt. I think you should be thankful for what he gave you before he got hurt, not focus on how he went down. Just realize that this is what he is at this point. You already got more from him this year than you were expecting. But that said, the timing of the Dominguez Stanton injury just kills me because he had the perfect opportunity to slide in there. And I was already thinking like, well, if Verdugo struggles in the second half, like all Red Sox fans are yelling at us about, then you're able to slide Dominguez in there. No team in baseball has a better insurance policy. And if you had to use him for Stanton, then you would have had to start worrying about, well, who comes in for Verdugo if he struggles. But anyway, it's a moot point now because this could have been so easy, and instead it's going to be very difficult. And if anyone's thinking they're just not going to miss Stanton for the next month, you are. The offense is going to get worse. Like, Dominguez was the solution there, and he was a great one. He was a better solution than any other team had. Instead, we're going to be treading water a little bit, or really forced to reckon with the boat taking on too much, soaking waves, because they had the opportunity to just slide a guy right in there again, which they've been doing all year. And if they're going to do it again, it's going to have to come from an unexpected source like Ben Rice or JD Davis or insert trade deadline candidate, because it's not always as cut and dried as it seems to be. And they had this one under control, and now they don't.
Yeah, not going to stop me from being mad, though, because he should have been up at the big league level before suffering that injury. And obviously I know injuries happen, but if he's not in the minor leagues, probably doesn't get injured, probably is here. There was, again, the excuse that there was no path to regular playing time for Jason Dominguez was among the weakest. It's what a losing team would say, in my opinion. Again, you did not need Giancarlo Stanton playing every day, clogging up the DH role. You did not need Aaron Judge on his feet every day in the outfield. You did not need Anthony Rizzo playing the list goes on and on of guys who did not need to play every day. There were ways to shuffle Jason Dominguez in the lineup, get him playing 3-4 games a week, and then preparing for this moment, which was inevitable. Aaron Judge almost went down for 6 weeks if that pitch breaks his hand or breaks his pinky last Thursday or Wednesday or whatever it was. So for the Yankees to pretend like there's no space for a super talented player, B, pretend like his development is going to get halted when he's only proven to level up every single time he's gotten the opportunity, and to not brace for a large injury, or an impactful injury, which always comes, is foolish. And they put themselves in a bad position by not maximizing what they had, and being able to cycle in the right talent at the right, like this. Again, this team is employing Trent Grisham, who, again, I don't have a problem with, but doesn't need to be here at the end of the day. They're employing Oswaldo Cabrera. They are employing Jahmai Jones. They were employing Anthony Rizzo. Gleyber Torres is getting everyday reps. DJ LeMahieu is getting everyday reps. If you don't think there is a pathway to improve this team, even Alex Verdugo, we've seen the slumps from Alex Verdugo. He could use days off. Doesn't need to be playing every day. Got a day off this week. That's where Jason Dominguez comes in. Oh, wow, really good player we have on our team that we can sub in whenever we want. It just made the most sense possible, and they didn't act on it, and now they're paying for it, and I truly believe that, because the longer you leave guys languishing in the minors, this is the shit that happens. We've seen it with, we just saw it with Everson Pereira. Not saying he should have been called up, but like he's another guy who topped out at the minors. Oswald Peraza topped out at the minors. Like, then they get injured and then they're useless. Oswald Peraza's on this roster. Like, again, not anybody that's going to change the team's fortune. So why are we employing a bench of less impactful players when we could have just employed a bench of stars? and figured out a way to shuffle things around more responsibly. I don't know. And Red Sox fans, just fucking worry about your own shit. I'm done hearing about your Verdugo stuff. Like, I don't care if he's going to slide in the second half. I also don't care about your opinion because your opinion's usually wrong. It's usually delusional. It's usually backed in, it's not backed in reality. You didn't like Alex Verdugo. You're hoping that he fails in the Yankees. I don't blame you. I just don't need to hear it. Worry about your own team and your fucking over surplus of outfielders and how you're going to fuck up the trade deadline. That's what I think you should do.
That's what I think everyone should do. Well, the Mets are on deck, Subway Series this week, and apparently they're the hottest team in baseball despite being the dregs of the sport through the month of May. Long season, 162 games feels like forever. The last week has felt like forever. I totally get it. If you're frustrated, I am too. The Dominguez injury was definitely the first time when I was like, that feels like previous Yankee seasons. And then Stanton, of course, coming right on the heels of it, couldn't script it any worse. It was going to happen right when you didn't need it to happen. But the Yankees are not out of anything yet. Again, they in fact lead the American League East, the toughest division in baseball to win every single year because this either the first or second best team in the American League, depending on how you view the Orioles, is in the division. So
yeah,
two really good teams in the AL East. The Red Sox also appear to be pretty good, and the Rays are never going to go away. And the Jays, hot, fat, wet garbage. So 4 teams competent, 1 completely incompetent. But that makes a pretty good division, in my opinion. We'll see how the Yankees stack up against the Mets this week. It's Garrett Cole and Luis Gil against David Peterson and Sean Manaea. Both good pitchers. Mets had an opportunity to maybe sneak Luis Severino in here, and they decided not to do it. I'm very surprised that they did not do that. Remember when Buck Showalter was just like, yeah, I'm going to put Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander in the Subway Series, every series. Enjoy. I'm surprised that the Mets did not do that to us, but should be a fun one. Didn't look like it was going to be a fun one about a month ago. Now it's fun for an entirely different reason. It always ends up being kind of a fun little test. The Yankees do get the Jays coming up soon. Would be nice if they continue to be absolutely abysmal. Would be nice if we could pummel them into a trade deadline sell-off. Would be nice if Vlad Jr. could find a new home in another league. There is another league.
The Mexican League. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, it's out there. The Mexican League is always looking for candidates to hit for a 740 OPS and get voted in to start the All-Star game annually for whatever reason. But yeah, hopefully the rest of June, Yankees look a little bit more like the competent version that they raced through May as, but obviously they're going to be a little bit short-staffed and fingers crossed. I'm tired. You can find us on Thursday right here, 2 o'clock Eastern, recapping the Subway Series. Much needed off day today for the New York Yankees, but not for us. We don't sleep. All podcast platforms live on YouTube twice a week. I am Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
I am at Tommy's_takes. Orioles fans found me on Instagram. You want to hear these messages before we go? Orioles fans, I mean, you guys are coming. You're coming very close to the power rankings of fans that I hate. Found me on Instagram. You have my Twitter handle, and all these you have my email. Why are you coming after me on Instagram? What did
they say? What did they say out there?
Way to dick ride a shitty franchise, buddy. Saw that article today. Was waiting for Heel to get shelled. Who's the crybaby now? That's one. So
it still sounds like you're the crybaby, though. The person who found you on Instagram is more of a crybaby than you, I would say.
Yeah. Secondly, I wrote an article about how the Yankees suck, but then also talked about Orioles fans pumping the brakes because they're still second in the division. They haven't accomplished shit in what? Like 3-4 decades. Literally accomplished nothing.
One of the all-time worst playoff flameouts last year, too, with the same core. We can't lose. We never lose since Adley got called up. Oh, we got 2 games swept at home, and the postseason is over.
And the crying Orioles fan in my section when Raul Ibanez hit those home runs, I will never forget, crying in tears because Yankee fans were celebrating and probably crying. Adult man crying. Anyway, second one. So this guy clearly made a burner account because then he follows it up. Dick ride the Yankees any harder, bud. You still won't get a World Series with your $350 million in payroll. You're a pussy, and so is Soto. Can thank him for that fastball. I wish broke his hand. That was Judge.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and if you couldn't tell before, I'll help you out. Your fucking article sucks, and you are not a good journalist or publisher. Gonna suck even more when your ace gives up 4 runs by the end of the third, and the guy from the bullpen shuts you out for 5.
The guy from the bullpen?
I don't know. It's not English, but it's good shit. Either way, I'm on Twitter, and I don't need to find that on Instagram. Just there's more accessible avenues. And also, like, yes, Orioles 5-2 against the Yankees. That is great. There are 6 games remaining in the regular season series. You're still in second place. You just gave back all that goodwill by getting swept by the Astros. You didn't gain shit on the Yankees this weekend, even though you had nothing to do with how they were playing. So, yeah, just relax, guys. You got a lot of injuries yourselves. You have trade deadline needs to figure out. You have a pivotal offseason coming up. You already blew it this past offseason. So, yes, good team, but nobody's scared of you. Orioles fans saying, oh, we're not scared of the Yankees. It's like, okay, literally no one's scared of you. Like, no one is scared of you. You have Gunnar Henderson, very good player, and then a bunch of people who are guaranteed to shit the bed when the postseason arrives, just like what happened last year. So, good riddance.
Well, if this is to that Orioles fan who messaged Thomas twice under 2 different accounts, if you haven't gotten a third message in under a different account, now's your time. Listen up here. Hopefully you're listening to this podcast. And for everyone else, yes, please contact us. Twitter is a great spot to do that. Our articles are disseminated on social media. You can reach us there. Or again, right to the inbox if you want to be real weird and get ignored. Until Thursday, 2 o'clock Eastern once again. We will see you on the website. Take care, everybody.